Good morning, Year 10. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Firstly, I'd just like to thank all the people who sent me their ideas for their spoken language assessment. I have been blown away by the quality of the ideas I've been getting. I'm not going to go through them all now, but I've been really interested in how you've really thought deeply about the big issues in our society, the things that are important, and things that people will be interested in. So every idea that I've approved has, the potential to get a distinction. So really well done to everyone who sent me an idea. I've got about half of your ideas finalised, so very well done to those half and that half of the class. If you are still struggling to finalise an idea, please do know that I'm here to help. I can't give you an idea, but if you give me a couple, I can help you narrow it down to your final decision. So please do stay in touch if you're still finalising your idea. Ideally, we want to get that sorted as quickly as possible. Okay, so for your do now, there's two up and do nows. So if you haven't chosen your topic yet, I would like you to spend 5 minutes thinking about what you could write your speech about. If you have not chosen your topic yet, if you have chosen your topic, then what I would like you to do is spend 5 minutes jotting down some ideas of the type of things you might want to talk about within your speech. So please pause the video for 5 minutes to do that now. And by the way, I did not create that picture of the teenage brain. I do not think the love lobe is the biggest from my own experiences, but maybe it is. And I think it's a bit judgmental saying Rebellion Centre is right at the top. So that wasn't my picture. And probably it's not how I would have drawn it if I did. So pause the video for 5 minutes now to do your do now. Okay, so please could you write the date and the title, Speaking and Listening Assessment Preparation. So last lesson we introduced this assessment, and today's lesson will be looking at examples of student speeches, because I know it can be quite difficult when you're looking at the mark scheme to know what exactly is complex, what exactly is sophisticated, how would you differentiate between those two terms. It can seem quite subjective. So today we'll be putting the mark scheme into practice by looking at examples and using the mark scheme to grade them accordingly. So after today's lesson, you should have a much clearer idea of the distinction between the various categories. You'll need to download a copy of the mark scheme from class charts, so please make sure you have that to hand. So as we talked about last lesson, to be awarded a pass, merit or distinction, a learner must tick every criteria in that grade. So you'll need to be audible and use spoken standard English, which, for the purposes of spoken language, means a learner must be intelligible, so people must be able to understand what you're saying, and use language generally appropriate to the formal setting of the presentation. So as we talked about last time, no slang. If possible, try and avoid that at all costs. Use your best, your highest quality language. And if you can also use sophisticated vocabulary, that'll be really helpful too. So we went through the pass, merit and distinction criteria last lesson. So if you haven't looked at that or want to refresh your memory, please could you go back to the last lesson, or if not, just pause the video now to read through it one more time. Okay, so accessing exemplars. So first I would like you to use the link in class charts to get onto the OCR website. Once you're there, you'll see what's on the slide, and you'll need to click on Candidate Exemplars. So you click that link. Then you need to find Spoken Language Set A. So once again, you've got an arrow. Please click on Spoken Language Exemplar Film Material Set A. You can watch them all, but the students that we'll be focusing on today are Beth, Jabril and Connor. But I would highly recommend looking at Josh and Mufasa in your own time. Okay, so now what you need to do is watch each of those presentations, and for each student, use the mark scheme to give them a mark. Consider what is the best fit for their presentation. So pause the video, and after you come back, you need to have marked each student and considered why you've given each student that particular mark. Okay, so now look back at your marks. Did the student meet every criteria in their grade? And on the next slides, you can see the examiner's comments, and you may be surprised. So Beth got a merit. So let's read through this together. Beth gives a presentation on the topic of female representation in books and films. She speaks at some length on this challenging topic before answering questions for her audience. The audience of peers had themselves just been taught questioning techniques, so they offer, unusually perhaps, sufficiently challenging questions. Beth takes on a challenging topic and presents a strong sense of her own personal feelings about the issues she addresses. Her talk is clearly organised, and indeed, she marks steps in her evolving argument, but the organisation at a micro level is slightly less effective because of the long speech sentences she uses, often linked by and then. Although she has a notebook, she's actually speaking without the support of an outline structure that Charlotte had. It might have helped her if she had one too. She has a wide range of vocabulary, aspiring to marry, but is not always sophisticated in her expression. Other sorts of romance books like that. She listens to questions and responds formally with some elaboration of further ideas. She demonstrates confident use of spoken English. There are times when Beth hits the descriptors for distinction, especially in her engagement with the audience, but she does not do so in all areas, especially the strand which refers to vocabulary and structure. For that reason, she is awarded a merit. As a Year 10 student, though, she has clear potential and can be helped to progress further. Okay, so what's really interesting here is some of you may have given her distinction because at times she does tick certain elements of the distinction box. However, she is not consistent in meeting every criteria of distinction, therefore she goes into merit. So Jabril got distinction. Jabril presents to a group of classmates and his teachers on the topic of free will. So right from the start, you can see it's a fantastic topic choice he's chosen there. Jabril has chosen a complex topic and uses a sophisticated repertoire and a range of vocabulary. He speaks with few notes and demonstrates extensive knowledge. The presentation is clear organisation. His relaxed but enthusiastic approach to the topic and its importance clearly engages the audience. So that's really key with the distinction. You've got to look like you're really enjoying the presentation, but also that it's coming quite naturally to you. So you've got to sort of present yourself as someone who is confident and relaxed in that sort of situation where you're talking to a large group of people. And in order to do that, as I've mentioned, it's really helpful if you are able to give presentations informally to people at this time, because otherwise it can be quite difficult to appear both relaxed and enthusiastic and passionate on the day of the assessment. He listens carefully to questions, responding confidently and appropriately. The teacher asks a challenging question, which allows Jabril to elaborate further on his ideas. So I've mentioned before, you will get questions from your classmates and from me. Generally, my question will be more challenging because I will use it to try and bump you up, if possible, or consolidate you into a particular band. So it won't be something that you are unable to deal with or that I know you can't deal with, but it may be a slightly more challenging question that I've got planned for you. His spoken standard English is assured and flexible. It should be noted that he uses quite a large number of fillers. So a filler is a word like or are, where you're not moving on to the next word. Attitudes to such use vary from individual to individual, but it needs to be made clear that fillers are common in speech and that the use of them is not an issue within the framing of these criteria and within the context of his presenting to colleagues. So if you do say are, provided it's not impeding your speech, it won't necessarily prevent you from getting a distinction. Jabril has achieved a distinction when looked against the criteria. It is worth noting 2 points in particular which help him achieve this. He speaks on a complex topic, which requires by definition a sophisticated range of ideas. So this is the key reason I didn't want you doing something like, I like playing football on the weekend, something like racism or free will, bullying. These are fantastic ideas because they demonstrate complexity of thought. You're not just, a simple person. You have really interesting ideas that are sophisticated and necessarily require you to have some depth of thought. So that's why I've kind of been quite keen to get the right idea from you, or to get a good idea from you, so you can get into the higher bands. He is helped by the teacher's question, which enables him to elaborate his ideas. Who asks the questions and the level of challenge of these questions needs to be considered by teachers and candidates when setting up the presentation. So that's why it's important to consider who you want to take questions from in your spoken assessment, because the right questions can help get you up into a higher band, whereas a really easy question, whilst it might be easy to answer and take the stress off a bit, it won't necessarily help develop your grade. But like I said before, my question will be carefully crafted to help you get the best possible result. And if no one asks you any questions from the audience, I will ask you all your questions that you need, so no need to worry about that. So Connor got a pass. Connor presents to a group of classmates on the life and death of Dr. Crippen. Connor speaks without notes at an inexorable pace, which means very fast, and with presumably extensive knowledge. It seems at times as though he may have learnt source material, which is not in itself an issue, but which here can be seen to impact on the way he delivers his presentation. The topic itself could be challenging, but the way he unrolls the narrative with no real pause for reflection means that his approach is better described as straightforward. So that's why it's so key that when you're giving your delivery, you pause at certain points. People don't have time to reflect or the opportunity to reflect if you just steamroll through all your material. So that's something, if you're practicing giving speeches, make sure you're pausing. The presentation has some shape, albeit in a straight narrative timeline. He uses a subtle range of appropriate vocabulary. He confidently uses spoken standard English. Connor answers questions clearly and fully, with thought and consideration, but the pace of the delivery and the uniform pitch suggests that he does not fully meet the needs of the audience. So in addition to speaking slowly and pausing, you do need to vary your pitch. So sometimes you want to raise it a bit, and sometimes you want to drop it a bit. So that variety in pitch just makes it a bit more engaging to listen to. And maybe in some of my lessons I've been guilty of not varying the pitch enough, hopefully not. But it's really key during those 4 to 5 minutes, you're making a conscious effort to vary your pitch to make it more engaging. In assessing Connor, we see a student who fully achieves the criteria of pass and achieves sometimes within the merit category. This means that under these criteria he is awarded a pass. So once again we see meeting some of the criteria some of the time will not get you into a higher band. You need to meet all the criteria all of the time to be in that band. Further development of his skills could focus on extending the range of ideas, varying the speed and pitch of his delivery, and ensuring that he receives questions which make him move beyond narrative detail. So let's reflect on what you've seen. You can talk about anything that interests you, but as I keep mentioning, please pick something that enables you to demonstrate deeper thought and demonstrate a wide range of ideas and concepts. It's not a performance, it's a speech. The context of your speech matters. You need to make sure it's something that's relevant to your audience. So if you're talking about something very, a tiny thing that's relevant to you, but not to your audience, you may lose their engagement. You don't need to memorize your speech off by heart, but you should know it well enough not to have to read it. You can use cue cards to prompt your memory. And this is really important. You need to know your topic well enough to answer questions from your audience confidently. So if all you know about your topic is what you've got on your cue cards, you could come a bit unstuck when it comes to questioning. So that's why I've been telling a lot of people via email, use this time once you've decided on your topic to become an expert in that topic. You should know it more than anyone else in that room, including me. So you've got plenty of time. You're at a huge advantage over previous years because sometimes we start it in September, so people don't have that long. So make sure you're taking full advantage of this opportunity to research. And it shouldn't be like homework, or it shouldn't be boring for you because it's something you've chosen and that you're passionate about. So take this time, whenever you have a few moments, dip into your source material, your research, and learn a few facts. Do that constantly up until September, and you will be an absolute expert. And that will also help in your presentation skills, because if you're confident about something, if you're passionate, you're going to be so much better, and that will really help get you into the higher bands. So please do your research. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I've got ideas from about half of you about what you would like to do your speech on. And can I just say, like, once again, massive well done to all those people whose speeches I've signed off on, speech ideas I've signed off on. They are all ideas that can enable you to get into distinction, because they have an element of complexity to them that will be really beneficial when you're writing your speech. So really big well done to those people. The other half of the class who haven't finalised their idea yet or haven't submitted one, please do get a move on and try and brainstorm today and get that to me latest by next Monday. Okay, so these are some ideas if you're struggling. Veganism, obviously the future, but you can make a case either way. Why life is harder for men than it is for women, or vice versa. Artificial intelligence, is it going to destroy mankind or make us closer? Life lessons from a book, film, or TV series. Homelessness, the forgotten people in British society. The secrets to being happy, renewable energy. Another one I just thought of, it could be life lessons from from the coronavirus lockdown. So you could talk, it's very, very relevant. It's relevant to every single person, relevant to society. You can potentially talk about how it's impacted you, how it's impacted society, and what the long-term effects are going to be. So these are all good ideas that enable you to tap into the big ideas. Again, something I've also been telling people, if you're struggling, go back to the key themes in the books you've studied. Those things like power, duality of man, gender roles, these are all good foundations for topics if you're struggling. But like I said, please, make sure you're doing your brainstorming, and at the very latest, I would like something by next Monday. So now it's time to start planning. Two options. If you haven't got your idea yet, I would like you to create a mind map of all your ideas and brainstorm what you could say about them. Or if you have got your topic, I would like you to create a mind map of ideas you could cover within your topic. So for instance, if you've chosen racism, what would that encompass? What kind of things are you going to talk about? Will you use anecdotes? What kind of facts are you going to research? That kind of thing. So please take this time, 10 minutes, to do some planning. Okay, so finally, before you go, I would like you to talk to someone about your favourite idea or your chosen speech idea. Get their opinion and ask them what they would want to know about your topic. And what do they think would be a great speech idea for you if you haven't chosen one already? Okay, so that's your final task. Should only take a couple of minutes, so please make sure you do that at some point today. Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's lesson. Thank you very much for your hard work. And I have to say, doing this module with you, even though it's very short and we're at a distance, has been really rewarding for me, because I've been blown away, like I said, by the quality of the ideas. And even though I've only got the headline of the topic, I feel like I've got to know you a bit better by finding out what ideas you've come up with. So thank you, I suppose, for sending me such thoughtful ideas. I've been so impressed that you've clearly put a lot of time and effort into coming up with these ideas that mean something to you. So thank you very much. And to those of you who haven't come up with an idea, please do so. The bar is very, very high, but I'm sure you'll rise to it. So look forward to hearing from you, those who haven't sent me their idea. Well done to those of you who have, but please don't, fall off the face of the map. Do stay in touch. Let me know how you're planning to structure it. Let me know if you have any questions and I can help you. So do stay in touch. I really want to help you with this, especially since we've got such wonderful ideas being put forward. So thank you once again, and I'll see you later this week for our poetry lesson. Right, bye bye.